Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the last lecture, we talked about direct and indirect pathway and connection of the substantia nigra with the nuclei of the basal ganglia. Now, what is the overall connection of the basal ganglion and its influence on the pyramidal system? The direct and indirect pathway and are between the major nuclei of the basal ganglion on one hand, and with the thalamus and the cerebral cortex on the other hand. Now, what is the overall connection of the basal ganglia? Just a summary. The basal ganglia is an important part of the extrapyramidal system also. So as we know that the motor systems are pyramidal and extrapyramidal, responsible for the movements of the body. The pyramidal system, it results in the desired movements, and the extrapyramidal system either excite or inhibit the movements. So what the overall connection of the basal ganglion? Now, you know, basal ganglion comprise of corpus striatum, the major part, corpus striatum, and thalamus also has an important role. The corpus striatum is motor in function. And part of the important component of the extrapyramidal system. Thalamus is the sensory in function. It is a relay station for all sensations except olfaction. That is, all the sensations, touch, pain, temperature, etc., they are first relayed in the thalamus, and from the thalamus via thalamocortical fibers to the sensory cortex. So in this way, all the sensations, they are relayed in the thalamus, except one sensation, that is olfaction, sense of smell, which do not relay in the thalamus. And apart from this sensory function, thalamus is also related with the basal ganglia, which we discussed in the last lecture. Now, what is the summary of overall connections of the basal ganglia? Now, thalamus, it is connected to the caudate nucleus. And then cerebral cortex, it is connected with the putamen. The caudate nucleus and putamen also interconnect with one another. Then the putamen, it is connected to the globus pallidus. Now from the globus pallidus, tracts arise. Three major tracts arise from the globus pallidus. That is ansa lenticularis, then fasciculus lenticularis, and subthalamic fasciculus. The fasciculus is also stands with a tract. So tracts are also known as fasciculi. So these three major tracts, they arise from the globus pallidus. The fasciculus lenticularis is also known as Florer's field. H2. Fasciculus lenticularis is also known as the Florer's field H2. Now the subthalamic fasciculus, the tract, it lay in the subthalamic nucleus. While these two tracts, the ansa lenticularis and the fasciculus lenticularis join together to form a common bundle. And this common bundle is also known as Florer's field. H1. The fasciculus lenticularis was also known as Florer's field H2, while this common fasciculus, known as common bundle, is also known as Florer's field H1. This common bundle then connect with various nuclei. Located in the brainstem, midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata. For example, the reticular formation, of brainstem, red nucleus, which is located in the midbrain, tectal nuclei, located in the midbrain, vestibular nuclei, located at the junction of pons and medulla oblongata, pons to medullary junction, olivary nuclei located in the medulla oblongata. So the common bundle terminate in these nuclei. The subthalamic fasciculus terminate in the subthalamic nucleus, while the Flores field H1 or common bundle terminate in various nuclei, reticular formation, nuclei of the reticular formation of brainstem. Red nucleus, which is in the midbrain, then tactile nucleus, tactile nuclei, also located in the midbrain. Vestibular nuclei at the pontomedullary junction, and the olivary nuclei located in the medulla oblongata. Now from these nuclei tracts arise, and these tracts terminate in the brainstem nuclei and anterior horn of the spinal cord. Suppose if you draw a section through spinal cord, it is traversed by central canal and gray matter is in the form of anterior horn and posterior horn. Spinal cord section. So from these nuclei, fibers arise in the form of tracts to the motor nuclei of the brainstem and also anterior horn of the spinal cord. You know, anterior horn of spinal cord is motor in function, comprised of multipolar motor neurons, and the posterior horn, you know, comprised of sensory neurons. And you know the origin of spinal nerve: ventral root, dorsal root, characterized by presence of spinal ganglion joined together to form spinal nerve. From the anterior horn, the motor fibers, they traverse through the passes through the ventral root of the spinal nerve, and then spinal nerve and supply the muscles. And the sensory fibers pass through this spinal nerve, spinal ganglion, and posterior horn. So anterior horn is motor in function. So all these tracts relay into the brainstem and anterior horn of the spinal cord. And if you know the names of the nuclei, it is very easy to remember the names of the tracts. For example, reticular formation tract arising from the reticular formation of brainstem relay in the anterior horn of the spinal cord known as the reticulospinal tract. Red nucleus fibers arising from the red nucleus also relay in the anterior horn known as the rubrospinal tract. Rubra means red. So rubrospinal tract. Tectal nuclei, tectospinal tract. Vestibular nuclei, vestibulospinal tract. Olivary nuclei, olivospinal tract. So if you remember the names of these nuclei, it is very easy to describe the names of the tracts which connect these nuclei with the spinal cord, anterior horn at different levels. Now all this is pyramidal system. Pyramidal tracts. They relay at the anterior horn. Then I told you that the basal ganglion is an important part of extrapyramidal system also. The basal ganglion, extrapyramidal. And I told you the extrapyramidal system influence the extrapyramidal system influence the pyramidal system. Both are motor system, but the role of pyramidal system is to modify the actions of the pyramidal system. The extrapyramidal system, it either excite or depress the pyramidal system. Excite or depress the pyramidal system. How it excite or depress the pyramidal system, how it exert its influence over the pyramidal system. I told you that the pyramidal system relay in the anterior horn of the spinal cord at different levels. The extrapyramidal system also relay at the anterior horn of the spinal cord. So you can see both the pyramidal system and extrapyramidal system, they meet at the anterior horn of the spinal cord at different levels. Now if you want to walk slowly, if you want to walk, then the pyramidal system will be activated and your limbs will move. Now you want to walk slowly or you want to run. It is the extrapyramidal system here. If you want to walk slowly, the extrapyramidal system will inhibit the pyramidal system. And if you want to run, then the extrapyramidal system will excite the pyramidal system. In this way, the motor activity is modified under the influence of extrapyramidal system, which either excite or depress or slow down the motor activity. So this is the overall connection of the basal ganglion and its influence on the pyramidal system. Now, briefly about the basal ganglion major nuclei. In this system, the cerebellum also has important role. You know, for movements you need coordination, balance. Therefore, the cerebellum will coordinate these motor activities so that you can perform the desired movement. You know the actual features of the basal surface of the cerebrum, divided into orbital part and tentorial part. On the orbital part of the inferior surface of the cerebrum, there is olfactory bulb, followed by olfactory tract, which divide into striae, medial stria, lateral stria, and intermediate stria. Olfactory bulb, olfactory tract, and stria. And behind it, I told you there is a layer of gray matter which shows perforations known as the anterior perforated substance. There are three cerebral arteries: anterior cerebral artery, middle cerebral artery, and posterior cerebral artery. And these cerebral arteries divide into cortical branches and central branches. The cortical branches supply the cerebral cortex outside, and the central branches mainly supply the nuclei embedded in the white matter of each cerebral hemisphere. This is why they are called central branches. So here at the anterior perforated substance, the central branches of anterior and posterior cerebral arteries they pierce this layer of gray matter to enter and supply the nuclei of basal ganglion and internal capsule. So some of the major nuclei of the basal ganglion, they project from the anterior perforated substance into the white matter of each cerebral hemisphere. Now, for example, this is lentiform nucleus. A three-dimensional view of lentiform nucleus, one of the major nucleus of basal ganglion. Then next to it, close to its lateral surface, separated by external capsule, is a saw-shaped nucleus known as the claustrum. Claustrum. Then there is the amygdaloid body. Amygdaloid body. The amygdaloid body lies at the tail end of caudate nucleus. So suppose this is head, body, and tail of the caudate nucleus. Caudate nucleus. So some of the major nuclei of the basal ganglia. Now I told you they project from the anterior perforated substance. Now suppose this is a section through anterior perforated substance. A layer of gray matter. Anterior perforated substance. It is perforated by the central branches of the anterior and middle cerebral arteries. Suppose these are anterior and middle cerebral arteries, and from these central branches arise, which passes through perforations of anterior perforated substance. These are the central branches. Of anterior and posterior cerebral arteries. So you can see some of the major nuclei of the basal ganglion. They are below in continuity with the anterior perforated substance, and they project upwards into the white matter of right cerebral hemisphere and also left cerebral hemisphere. Lentiform nucleus, then claustrum, then amygdaloid body, directly arising from the anterior perforated substance. Now, this is caudate nucleus. So close to the caudate nucleus is the amygdaloid body. This is head, body, and tail of the caudate nucleus. So here upwards from the region of the anterior perforated substance, these major nuclei of the basal ganglia, they project upwards into the white matter of right cerebral hemisphere and white matter of left cerebral hemisphere. So this was the relation of some of the major nuclei of basal ganglia with the anterior perforated substance. So with this we finished with the basal ganglion, its different nuclei, its connections, and its applied aspects. We discussed the telencephalon, the internal features of the telencephalon. You know, the forebrain comprise of telencephalon and diencephalon, which further divided into various parts like thalamus, hypothalamus, epithalamus, etc. So we discussed the cerebral cortex, the gray matter of the telencephalon. Then we discussed the nuclei embedded in the white matter of each cerebral hemisphere, each telencephalon, in the form of basal nuclei. And next topic which we will discuss will be the white matter of telencephalon. After finishing with the telencephalon, we will then switch on to the diencephalon, thalamus, hypothalamus, etc. So with this we finished with the structure of telencephalon. Only white matter is left, which we will discuss in the next lecture. Thank you very much.